Admiral Zixthara stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Dominion, her 6 eyes focused on the main viewing screen. The bridge was a masterpiece of Imperial engineering, with walls of polished black metal and control panels that glowed with soft blue light. Officers from 12 different species worked at their stations, their uniforms crisp and perfect. Everything about the Imperial Third Fleet spoke of order and absolute control. The Admiral's forearms moved with practiced precision as she reviewed the morning reports. The Third Fleet consisted of 12 massive warships, each one capable of destroying an entire planet. They patrolled the Outer Rim territories, enforcing Imperial law and destroying any unauthorized vessels that dared to enter Imperial space. It was a routine assignment, and Admiral Zixthara expected nothing more than another boring day of showing the flag. That expectation shattered when Lieutenant Commander Vorth, an insectoid officer with compound eyes, looked up from his sensor station with visible confusion. "Admiral, we have detected an unknown vessel at coordinates 77 Mark IV, Vorth reported, his voice clicking as he spoke. "The ship appears to be of unknown origin." Admiral Zixthara's tail twitched with interest. Unknown vessels were rare in this sector. Most species knew better than to enter Imperial space without permission. "Display the vessel on screen," she ordered. The main viewing screen flickered and showed a ship that made the Admiral's eyes widen in disbelief. The vessel looked like someone had taken spare parts from a dozen different ships and welded them together in a garage. Rust streaks covered much of the hull, and patches of different colored metal showed where repairs had been made. The ship's design made no sense according to Imperial engineering standards. It had angles that served no purpose, sections that seemed to stick out randomly, and what appeared to be external fuel tanks held on with visible struts. "What in the name of the Empire is that thing?" the Admiral muttered. She had seen many ships in her long career, but nothing quite like this mismatched collection of scrap metal. "Sensor readings are ... "Unusual, Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Vorth reported, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The ship registers as approximately 200 meters in length, but the mass readings keep changing. Sometimes it shows as light as a shuttle, other times as heavy as a cruiser." "Equipment malfunction?" the Admiral asked. "Negative, Admiral. I have run full diagnostics 3 times. The sensors are working perfectly." Admiral Zixthara studied the strange vessel. Despite its ramshackle appearance, something about it bothered her. She had spent 40 years in the Imperial Navy, and her instincts had kept her alive through dozens of battles. Those same instincts were now screaming that this ship was not what it appeared to be. "Weapons status?" she asked Commander Theises. The ship's weapons officer looked up from his console. His reptilian features showed concentration as he studied his readouts. "The vessel appears to have several weapon hardpoints, but they do not match any known configuration in our database. The energy signatures are ... strange." "Strange how?" "The readings suggest the weapons are both primitive and advanced at the same time. It should not be possible." Admiral Zixthara felt a chill run down her spine. In her experience, things that should not be possible usually meant trouble. "Communications, attempt to contact the vessel." The communications officer, a tall humanoid with pale blue skin, worked at her station for several moments. "Channel open, Admiral." "Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Zixthara of the Imperial Third Fleet. You are in violation of Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded." For a long moment there was only static. Then a voice came through the speakers that made everyone on the bridge freeze. It was clearly from an unknown species, with strange inflections and an accent that sounded almost cheerful. "Howdy there, fancy ships. Mind if I pass through?" The casual tone hit the bridge like a physical blow. No one spoke to the Imperial Navy that way. Admiral Zixthara had conquered star systems and destroyed entire fleets, and her reputation was known throughout the galaxy. Yet this unknown being had just addressed her like she was a neighbor asking about the weather. Did they just say, "Howdy"? Whispered the navigation officer. Admiral Zixthara composed herself and activated the communications system again. Unknown vessel, you will respond with proper military protocol. State your name, species, and purpose in Imperial space immediately. Again, there was a pause. Then the voice returned, still sounding remarkably relaxed. Oh, sorry about that. Name's Sarah-chan. I'm human, and I'm just passing through. Haven't seen any good truck stops around here, have you? I'm running low on coffee, and that's always a problem. The bridge fell silent. Admiral Zixthara looked around at her officers, seeing the same confusion on their faces that she felt. Truck stops? She asked. Coffee? What is this being talking about? Science Officer Quinn, a being with tentacles instead of arms, looked up from his console. Admiral, our databases have no record of a species called human. The linguistic patterns suggest an unknown language family. And what is a truck stop? Asked Commander Thizes. Unknown, sir. The term does not translate into any known language. Admiral Zixthara felt her patience wearing thin. She had dealt with pirates, rebels, and smugglers, but never with someone who seemed completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation. Human vessel, you are in violation of Imperial law. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences. Consequences? The human's voice still sounded cheerful. What kind of consequences are we talking about here? Like a fine, or are you folks the shooting first and asking questions later type? The Admiral's four hands clenched into fists. We are the Imperial Third Fleet. We have the authority to destroy any unauthorized vessel in Imperial space. You have 30 seconds to surrender. Destroy? That seems a bit harsh for just passing through. Are you sure you folks are having a good day? You sound really stressed. Commander Thizes looked at the Admiral with disbelief. Sir, are they actually concerned about our emotional well-being? Apparently, the Admiral replied through gritted teeth. She had never encountered anything like this in her entire career. The human either had no idea who they were dealing with, or they had nerves of solid neutronium. Human vessel, you have 15 seconds to comply. Okay. You folks take your space really seriously. Tell you what, how about I just head that way? The human paused, presumably pointing in some direction, and we call it even? I really don't want any trouble. I've got a delivery to make, and my customer gets really cranky when I'm late. Admiral Zixthara activated the tactical display. The strange human ship sat alone in space, surrounded by 12 Imperial dreadnoughts. Each of her ships carried enough firepower to level a continent. The humans should be begging for mercy, not making casual conversation about deliveries and cranky customers. 5 seconds, the Admiral announced. You know what? The human said, and for the first time, there was a slight change in tone. Not fear, but something that sounded almost like mild annoyance. I'm really trying to be polite here, but you folks are starting to get on my nerves. I've had a long day, I'm behind schedule, and I haven't had decent coffee in 6 hours. Maybe we should all take a step back and think about this. Time's up, Admiral Zixthara declared. All ships prepare to fire warning shots. Target the space directly in front of the human vessel. The tactical officer's hands moved over his controls. All ships report ready, Admiral. Fire! 12 streams of coherent energy lanced out from the Imperial fleet. The combined firepower could have vaporized a small asteroid. The energy beams converged on a point directly in front of the human ship, creating a brilliant flash of light that briefly outshone the nearby star. When the light faded, Admiral Zixthara expected to see empty space and a very frightened human. Instead, the strange ship sat exactly where it had been, completely unharmed. But that was not the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part was what the human said next. Nice light show. Are you folks compensating for something? The bridge fell completely silent. Admiral Zixthara stared at the screen, her mind trying to process what had just happened. The Imperial Third Fleet had just fired warning shots with enough combined energy to destroy a city, and the human had called it a light show and made what sounded suspiciously like an insult. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Vorth said quietly, the energy from our warning shots appears to have been completely absorbed or deflected. Our sensors detected no impact with any defensive systems. That's impossible, Commander Theises said. Nothing can absorb that much energy without some kind of shielding effect. The human ship shows no energy signatures consistent with defensive shields, Science Officer Quinn reported. According to our instruments, there is nothing protecting that vessel except empty space. Admiral Zixthara felt something she had not experienced in decades, genuine uncertainty. The human ship defied everything she knew about physics and engineering. It looked like junk, but apparently had defensive capabilities that could casually absorb the firepower of 12 dreadnoughts. Human vessel, she said slowly. How did you survive that attack? Attack? The human sounded genuinely surprised. Was that supposed to be an attack? I thought you were just showing off. Look, I really appreciate the welcome committee and all, but I've got places to be. My cargo's not going to deliver itself. What cargo? The Admiral asked, despite herself. Oh, just the usual stuff. Coffee, spare parts, some of my mom's homemade cookies for the colony on Kepler 442b, nothing exciting? Admiral Zixthara looked around her bridge. Her officers stared back with expressions of complete bewilderment. In all her years of service, she had never encountered a situation quite like this. The human ship was impossible, the pilot was either insane or completely fearless, and nothing about this encounter made any sense according to Imperial doctrine. Admiral, Science Officer Quinn said quietly, I recommend we request reinforcements before proceeding further. The Admiral nodded. Slowly, something told her that 12 dreadnoughts might not be enough. Admiral Zixthara paced across the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, her forearms clasped behind her back. 20 minutes had passed since her request for reinforcements, and the human ship still floated in space like nothing had happened. The casual way the human pilot had dismissed their warning shots bothered her more than she wanted to admit. Admiral, the 2nd and 5th fleets have arrived, announced the communications officer. The main viewing screen shifted to show the new arrivals. 36 additional warships materialized from hyperspace, their massive hulls gleaming in the starlight. Each fleet brought its own flagship and support vessels, creating a formation that could conquer most star systems. The combined firepower now surrounding the small human ship was enough to crack a planet's crust. This should make our position clear, Admiral Zixthara muttered to herself. Admiral Korath of the 2nd Fleet appeared on the communications screen. His species had scales instead of skin and eyes like burning coals. Zixthara, what is so important that you need 3 full fleets to handle one ship? That ship, Korath. Look at your sensor readings and tell me what you see. There was a pause as Admiral Korath studied his instruments. When he spoke again, his voice carried a note of confusion. These readings make no sense. The vessel appears to be constructed from scrap metal, but the energy signatures are completely wrong. That's what I thought too, Admiral Zixthara replied. We fired warning shots 20 minutes ago. 12 dreadnoughts, full power, the energy just disappeared. Disappeared? That's impossible. Tell that to the human pilot? They called it a light show and asked if we were compensating for something. Admiral Korath's scaled face showed disbelief. A human said that to the Imperial Navy? The exact words. I've never encountered anything like this before. Admiral Vexara of the 5th Fleet joined the communication channel. Her species was tall and thin, with skin that changed colors based on emotion. Right now, her skin showed the deep purple of extreme caution. My science officer has been analyzing the vessel since we arrived. The results are disturbing. Explain, Admiral Zixthara ordered. The ship simultaneously registers as multiple different objects. Sometimes our sensors see a small cargo vessel. Other times they detect something the size of a battle station. The mass readings change every few seconds. Equipment failure? Negative. We've run every diagnostic we have. Our instruments are working perfectly. The problem is with that ship. Admiral Zixthara looked at the human vessel on her screen. It still looked like a collection of spare parts welded together by someone who had never heard of proper engineering. But 3 separate fleets were now getting impossible readings from their sensors. "Human vessel," she announced over the communication channel. "You are now surrounded by 48 Imperial warships. This is your final warning. Surrender immediately." The response came quickly, and the human pilot still sounded annoyingly cheerful. "Wow, you folks really don't mess around, do you? That's a lot of ships just for little old me. Are you sure this is necessary? I'm starting to feel a bit picked." On here, Admiral Korath's image flickered with anger. Did this being just say they feel picked on by 3 Imperial fleets? "They did," Admiral Zixthara confirmed. "Human pilot, you are facing the combined might of the Imperial Navy. You cannot possibly survive what will happen if you do not surrender." "Survive?" The human sounded genuinely curious. "What exactly do you think is going to happen? Are you planning to shoot at me with all those ships?" "If necessary, yes, all at once, if that's what it takes." There was a pause, and when the humans spoke again, they sounded almost worried. "Look, I really don't want any trouble here. How about I just leave? I'll go around your space instead of through it. Would that work for everyone?" Admiral Zixthara felt a moment of hope. Maybe the human was finally taking the situation seriously. "You will surrender your vessel for inspection first. Standard Imperial protocol. Inspection?" The human's voice returned to its previous casual tone. "Sorry, but that's not going to work. I've got cargo to deliver, and I'm already behind schedule. Plus, my ship's a bit of a mess right now. I haven't had time to clean up. This is not a request, human. It is an order. And I'm politely declining. Thanks anyway." Admiral Korath's scales darkened with rage. No one declines an Imperial order. "I just did," the human replied. "Look, you seem like nice folks, but I've really got to get going. My customer is expecting their coffee, and they get really grumpy when deliveries are late." Admiral Vexara's skin shifted to bright red, indicating extreme aggression. "Zixthara, this being is making a mockery of Imperial authority. We need to end this now." Admiral Zixthara nodded slowly. She had tried to resolve this peacefully, but the human refused to cooperate. Imperial doctrine was clear about what happened to those who defied the Empire's authority. "All ships prepare for a coordinated strike. Target the human vessel directly." The tactical display lit up as 48 warships turned their weapons toward the small ship. Energy readings spiked across the board as massive cannons charged to full power. The amount of destruction about to be unleashed could vaporize anything smaller than a moon. "Human vessel, you have 10 seconds to surrender." "Are you seriously going to shoot at me?" the human asked. "I mean, really shoot, not just more light shows? 5 seconds. Okay, I get it. You folks are really committed to this whole intimidation thing. But before you do something we'll all regret, maybe I should mention something." "What?" Admiral Zixthara demanded. "My ship's not exactly what it looks like." "Meaning?" "Well, humans have been tinkering with physics for a while now. We've made some interesting discoveries." "Time's up," Admiral Zixthara announced. "All ships fire." The space around the human ship erupted in the most devastating display of firepower the galaxy had ever seen. 48 ships fired simultaneously, their combined energy output equivalent to a solar flare. The beams converged on the small vessel, creating a sphere of destruction that turned nearby asteroids to plasma and bent spacetime itself. The attack lasted for 30 seconds. When it ended, the 3 admirals waited for their sensors to clear and confirm the human ship's destruction. Nothing could survive that much concentrated firepower. The very atoms of the vessel should have been scattered across several light years. "Sensors clearing," reported Lieutenant Commander Vorth. "Scanning for debris." The main viewing screen flickered back to life, showing the area where the human ship had been. Admiral Zixthara expected to see empty space and maybe some glowing particles. Instead, the human ship sat exactly where it had been before the attack. The vessel appeared completely undamaged. Not a single scorch mark showed on its hull. It looked exactly the same as it had 30 seconds earlier. "That's impossible," Admiral Korath whispered. "Sensor readings confirm the human vessel is intact." Lieutenant Commander Vorth reported, his voice shaking slightly. No damage detected. Our combined firepower should have destroyed anything in the galaxy. Admiral Vexara said, her skin now showing the pale white of extreme fear. The communication channel crackled to life, and the human pilot's voice came through as cheerful. As ever, are you done with the fireworks? Because that was actually kind of pretty nice light effects. Admiral Zixtara stared at the screen in complete disbelief. 48 Imperial warships had just unleashed enough destruction to level a continent, and the human was complimenting their light effects. How? She asked, not really expecting an answer. How what? The human replied, How did you survive that attack? Oh, that. Well, like I said, humans have been playing around with physics. We figured out some neat tricks. What kind of tricks? The kind that make things like this possible. Don't worry about it too much. Most humans don't really understand how it works either. We just know it does. Science Officer Quinn looked up from his console, his tentacles quivering with excitement. Admiral, the energy from our attack didn't just disappear this time. According to our readings, it was absorbed and then redirected into something else. Redirected into what? Unknown. The energy signature vanished completely after absorption. Admiral Zixtara felt the first real fear she had experienced in decades. The human ship had just absorbed the combined firepower of 3 Imperial fleets and made it disappear. That level of technology was beyond anything in the Empire's databases. Human pilot, she said carefully. What exactly are you? Just a cargo hauler trying to make a living, the human replied. Though I guess you could say I'm pretty good at my job. I've been doing long-haul deliveries for about 15 years now. And your ship? The Cosmic Drifter? She's just a little something I put together in my garage back home. Nothing fancy, but she gets the job done. Admiral Korath's voice cut across the channel. No one builds a ship like that in their garage. You obviously haven't met many humans, the pilot replied with what sounded like amusement. We're pretty good at making things work, even when they shouldn't. Your technology is impossible, Admiral Vexara stated. Impossible is a strong word. I prefer creative engineering. Humans have this saying, if it's stupid but it works. It's not stupid, Admiral Zixtara looked around her bridge. Her officers stared back with expressions of complete confusion and growing terror. They had just witnessed something that challenged everything they knew about physics, engineering, and the nature of reality itself. Admiral, Science Officer Quinn said quietly, I recommend we withdraw and report this to Imperial Command immediately. Withdraw? Admiral Korath's image showed shock. From one ship? That's not just one ship, Admiral Zixtara replied slowly. That's something else entirely. The human pilot's voice interrupted their discussion. Hey, while you folks are chatting, would it be okay if I got going? I really do have a schedule to keep. Admiral Zixtara realized she was facing a decision that could define her entire career. She could order another attack, but the results would likely be the same. She could try to negotiate, but the humans seemed completely uninterested in Imperial authority. Or she could do something that went against every instinct she had developed in 40 years of military service. She could let the human go and hope they never encountered anything like this again. Human vessel, she said finally, you may proceed. Really? Just like that? Just like that. Well, thanks. I appreciate the reasonable approach. You folks have a good day now. The human ship began to move, accelerating smoothly away from the Imperial formation. As it did, Admiral Zixtara noticed something that made her stomach turn cold. The ship was leaving no engine signature. According to her sensors, it was moving through space without any visible means of propulsion. Admiral Zixtara watched the human ship move away from her fleet with growing unease. The vessel's smooth acceleration without any visible propulsion made her skin crawl. Nothing in the known galaxy moved through space that way. Even the most advanced Imperial ships needed massive engines to push their hulls through the void. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Vorth called from his station. We're receiving an emergency transmission from Imperial Command. Put it through. The main screen flickered to show Grand Admiral Vexman, the highest-ranking military officer in the entire Galactic Empire. His species resembled a massive insect with compound eyes that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Those eyes were currently showing extreme agitation. Admiral Zixthara, explain to me why you just allowed an unauthorized vessel to leave Imperial space without inspection. Admiral Zixthara straightened her uniform. Grand Admiral, the situation is more complex than standard protocol covers. The human vessel demonstrated capabilities that— Human? Grand Admiral Dexman interrupted. Did you say human? Our databases show no record of this species. That's correct, sir. They appear to be a previously unknown intelligent species. And you let them go? Sir, 3 full fleets fired on their vessel simultaneously. The combined attack had no effect whatsoever. The human ship absorbed the energy and continued as if nothing had happened. Grand Admiral Dexman's compound eyes flickered rapidly, a sign of deep thought in his species. 3 fleets? You're telling me that 1 unknown ship survived an attack from 48 Imperial warships? Not just survived, sir. The attack appeared to have no effect at all. Their pilot commented on the pretty light effects and asked, "If we were done with the fireworks?" The Grand Admiral was silent for several long moments. When he spoke again, his voice carried a note of concern that Admiral Zixthara had never heard before. "I'm dispatching Admiral Korthrex with the 1st Fleet. Do not engage the human vessel again until he arrives. Monitor from a distance only." Understood, sir. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zixthara staring at the spot where the human ship had been. In the distance, she could still see its running lights as it moved steadily toward the edge of Imperial space. "Admiral," Science Officer Quinn called out, "the human vessel has stopped." Stopped? Why? Unknown. They've been stationary for approximately 30 seconds. Admiral Zixthara frowned. "Open a channel." "Channel open, Admiral." "Human vessel, this is Admiral Zixthara. Why have you stopped?" The human pilot's cheerful voice came through the speakers immediately. "Oh, hey there. Sorry about that. I just realized I should probably stretch my legs a bit. This old ship gets cranky when I don't let her loosen up every now and then." "Stretch your legs? You're in space." "Not me personally," the human laughed. "The ship, she likes to stretch her legs." Before Admiral Zixthara could ask what that meant, the human vessel began to change. The Admiral watched in growing horror. As the ship's hull started to shift and reconfigure, panels that had been flush with the surface began to extend outward. Sections of the ship that she had thought were storage compartments opened like flowers blooming in fast motion. "What in the name of the Empire is happening?" Admiral Korath demanded over the communication channel. "I don't know," Admiral Zixthara replied. Unable to look away from the impossible sight, the human ship continued to unfold. Hidden compartments revealed themselves, extending from spaces that couldn't possibly have contained them. The vessel's hull twisted and expanded in ways that violated every law of physics Admiral Zixthara knew. What had been a modest cargo hauler was becoming something else entirely. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Vorth reported, his voice shaking, "the vessel's mass readings are fluctuating wildly. One moment it registers as a small cargo ship, the next as something the size of a battle station. That's impossible. Matter cannot just appear and disappear." "The sensors don't lie, Admiral. The ship's mass is changing in real time." Admiral Zixthara activated the tactical display and immediately wished she hadn't. The human vessel now showed as a 3-dimensional maze of impossible geometry. Weapons emerged from sections that hadn't existed moments before. Engine bays opened in areas where the ship's hull had been solid metal. The entire structure seemed to exist in more dimensions than the 3 that made up normal space. "Human pilot," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "what is happening to your ship?" "Oh, this? The cosmic drifter is just getting comfortable. She's been cramped up for the last few hours, and she needs to stretch out a bit. Don't worry, she's not going to hurt anyone." "Your ship is violating the laws of physics." "Laws are more like suggestions when you really think about it," the human replied casually. "Humans figured that out a while back. Reality is pretty flexible if you know where to push." Science Officer Quinn looked up from his console, all of his tentacles quivering with excitement and terror. Admiral, the energy readings from the human vessel have increased by a factor of 10,000. No, wait, now it's a factor of 50,000. The numbers keep climbing. How is that possible? It's not. The ship is generating more energy than a small star, but our thermal sensors show no increase in temperature. The energy is going somewhere, but we can't detect where. Admiral Vexara's voice cut across the communication channel, her skin now a pale white that indicated extreme fear. My weapons officer just informed me that the human ship now has more firepower than our 3 fleets combined. Confirmed, Admiral Korath added grimly. My tactical systems are showing weapon signatures that don't exist in any Imperial database. Some of them appear to be designed to manipulate space-time itself. Admiral Zixthara felt a chill run down her spine. Weapons that could manipulate space-time were purely theoretical. Imperial scientists had been working on such technology for centuries without success. Yet the human ship seemed to have dozens of them. Human pilot, she said carefully. Your vessel appears to be heavily armed. Armed? Oh, you mean the defensive systems. Yeah, the Cosmic Drifter has a few tricks up her sleeve. Can't be too careful when you're hauling cargo through unknown space. Pirates and such, Those are defensive systems? Mostly, the best defense is a good offense, right? At least that's what my Uncle Jake always said. He used to haul cargo through the Omega Sector before the war. What war? Oh, just a little disagreement we had with some folks who thought they owned the galaxy. Nothing too serious. We sorted it out. Admiral Zixthara exchanged glances with her officers. The humans spoke about a galactic war as if it were a minor inconvenience. How long ago was this war? About 15 years ago, I think. Time gets a bit fuzzy when you're doing long-haul deliveries. Could have been 20 years. I'm not great with dates. And you won this war? Won? I guess you could call it that. Mostly, we just convinced the other side that picking fights with humans wasn't a good idea. Once they understood that, things got pretty peaceful. Admiral Korath's scaled face showed disbelief. You're saying your species fought and won a galactic war? Well, fought is a strong word. It was more like we showed up, demonstrated why. Bothering us was a bad idea, and then went back to doing our own thing. Humans don't really like fighting unless we have to. What did you demonstrate? Oh, the usual stuff. Better technology, creative problem solving, that sort of thing. Humans are pretty good at making things that shouldn't work but do anyway. Admiral Zixthara looked at the human ship. On her screen, the vessel had finished its transformation and now resembled something from a nightmare. It was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying, with curves that seemed to exist in impossible dimensions and weapon arrays that hurt to look at directly. Human pilot, what exactly is your ship capable of? The Cosmic Drifter? She's a good old girl, reliable, efficient, and she's never let me down. She can haul about 10,000 tons of cargo, do about 50,000 times the speed of light in hyperspace, and she makes really good coffee. 50,000 times light speed? Admiral Vexara gasped. That's impossible. The fastest Imperial ships can only achieve 300 times light speed. Different engineering philosophies, I guess. Humans tend to focus on making things work first and worrying about whether they should work later. Science Officer Quinn looked up from his console again. Admiral, I'm detecting spatial distortions around the human vessel. Space itself appears to be bending around the ship. Bending how? It's difficult to explain. The ship seems to exist in normal space and somewhere else at the same time. Our sensors are detecting gravitational fields that shouldn't be possible from an object that size. Admiral Zixthara stared at the impossible ship floating in the void. Everything about it challenged her understanding of reality. Human pilot. How did your species develop this technology? Develop? That's a big word. Mostly we just tinker with things until they work. Humans have this approach to engineering where we try something, see if it works, and if it doesn't, we try something else. Eventually we figure it out. But the physics is more flexible than most people think. We discovered that if you approach it with the right attitude, you can convince the universe to do pretty much anything. The trick is not to think too hard about why it works. That makes no sense. Sure it does. Think about it this way. If the universe is going to be weird and confusing anyway, why not make it weird and confusing in ways that help you get things done? Admiral Zixthara felt her worldview crumbling. She had spent her entire career believing that the universe operated according to fixed laws. The human was suggesting that those laws were more like guidelines that could be bent with the right approach. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Vorth called out, "We're receiving another transmission from Imperial Command. Put it through." Grund. Admiral Lexman appeared on the screen again, but this time he was not alone. Behind him stood the entire Imperial High Council, their faces showing various degrees of concern and confusion. "Admiral Zixthara, our long-range sensors have detected massive spatial distortions in your area. Explain what is happening." Admiral Zixthara looked at the human ship, then back at the High Council. "Sir, the human vessel has transformed. It appears to be capable of manipulating space-time itself." "Manipulating space-time? That's impossible." "So we thought, sir. But we're witnessing it happen." Counselor Ithgara, an ancient being with tentacles for arms, leaned forward. "Admiral, what exactly are we dealing with?" Admiral Zixthara took a deep breath. "I believe we have encountered a species whose technology is so far advanced beyond ours that we cannot even comprehend how it works." "And this is a cargo ship?" "According to the pilot, yes. They claim to be delivering coffee and cookies." The silence that followed was broken only by the human pilot's cheerful voice over the communication channel. "Hey there, fancy ships. I'm all stretched out now, so I'll be moving along. Thanks for being patient. You folks have a great day." The impossible ship began to move again, accelerating smoothly toward the edge of Imperial space. As it did, Admiral Zixthara realized that everything she thought she knew about the galaxy had just changed forever. Admiral Korthrex arrived with the First Fleet just as the human ship reached the edge of Imperial space. His flagship, the Imperial Wrath, was the largest and most powerful warship in the entire Galactic Empire. Behind him came 60 additional vessels, including the new Super Dreadnought Galaxy's End, fresh from the shipyards and equipped with weapons that could crack a moon in half. Admiral Zixthara felt relief wash over her as the massive fleet took position around the human vessel. Admiral Korthrex was known throughout the Empire as the greatest military mind of his generation. If anyone could handle this impossible situation, it would be him. "Admiral Zixthara," Admiral Korthrex's voice came through the communication channel, deep and commanding. His species was large and powerful, with thick armor plating covering their bodies and voices that could shake walls. "I've reviewed your reports. This human vessel has made the High Council very nervous." "Understandable, sir. The ship's capabilities are unlike anything we've ever encountered." "So I see. My science teams have been studying your sensor data during our approach. The readings are impossible according to every law of physics we know." Admiral Zixthara looked at the human ship. On her screen, the cosmic drifter had returned to its original compact form, looking once again like a collection of spare parts held together with hope and welding. But now she knew what it could become when it chose to reveal its true nature. "Sir, I recommend extreme caution. The human pilot appears friendly, but their technology is beyond our understanding. Friendly or not, they have entered Imperial space without permission and refused Imperial authority. That cannot be allowed to stand?" Admiral Zixthara felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "Sir, we fired on them with 3 fleets. The attack had no effect." "3 fleets?" Admiral Korthrex replied grimly. "I've brought 4. Plus the Galaxy's End. If raw firepower won't work, then overwhelming firepower will." Before Admiral Zixthara could respond, the human pilot's cheerful voice came over the communication channel. "Well, hello there, new ships." "You folks sure do. Like to travel in groups? Is this some kind of space parade?" Admiral Korthrex's armored face darkened. Human vessel, I am Admiral Korthrex of the Imperial First Fleet. You are under arrest for violation of Imperial space and defying Imperial authority. Arrested? That seems a bit extreme. I'm just trying to deliver some coffee and cookies. Surely that doesn't warrant this much attention. You will surrender your vessel immediately or face the consequences. Consequences again? You folks really like that word. What kind of consequences are we talking about this time? Admiral Korthrex gestured to his tactical officer. Human, you are now facing 4 Imperial fleets and the most powerful warship ever built. The galaxy's end alone carries enough firepower to destroy a star system. Surrender now or be destroyed. There was a pause, and when the humans spoke again, their tone had changed slightly. Still friendly, but with something underneath that Admiral Zixthara couldn't quite identify? A star system? Really? That seems like overkill for one little cargo. Ship, are you absolutely sure you want to do this? I am giving you one final chance to surrender. Okay, but before you do something really stupid, maybe I should mention a few things. Such as? Well, for starters, I'm not just any cargo hauler. I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've never lost a shipment, not once. You know? Why? Enlighten me? Because the Cosmic Drifter and I don't like being threatened. And when we don't like something, we tend to do something about it. Admiral Korthrex's expression showed contempt. You're threatening the Imperial Navy? Threatening? Oh no, I don't threaten people. I'm just explaining the situation. See, you folks have been very polite so far, just shooting at empty space and making light shows. But now you're talking about destroying star systems and being really rude about the whole thing. Your point? My point is that I tried to be nice. I asked politely to pass through. I even offered to go around your space instead. But you folks seem determined to make this difficult. Admiral Zixthara felt her unease growing. Something in the human's tone suggested that the situation was about to change dramatically. Human vessel, Admiral Korthrex announced. You have 30 seconds to surrender? 30 seconds? That's not very much time. Tell you what, how about I show you why threatening humans is generally considered a bad idea? Show us what? Oh, just a little demonstration. Nothing too dramatic. I don't want to hurt anyone. Admiral Korthrex looked at his tactical display. Over 100 Imperial warships surrounded the small human vessel. The combined firepower represented centuries of military development and enough destruction to level entire worlds. 20 seconds, he announced. Okay, here we go, the human said, and Admiral Zixthara could swear she heard the pilot cracking their knuckles. Computer, show these nice folks why humans don't like being bullied. The human ship began to glow. Admiral Zixthara watched in, growing horror as the Cosmic Drifter started to emit a soft blue light that grew brighter by the second. The light wasn't coming from engines or weapon systems. It seemed to be radiating from the ship's hull itself. Admiral, Science Officer Quinn called out, his tentacles quivering with terror. The energy readings from the human vessel are off the scale. Our instruments can't measure what they're generating. How much energy are we talking about? More than our entire fleet produces, more than most stars produce. The readings are climbing so fast our computers can't keep up. Admiral Korthrex's voice cut across the communication channel. All ships, fire immediately. Do not wait for my command. The space around the human ship erupted in the most devastating display of destruction in galactic history. 108 Imperial warships fired simultaneously, their combined energy output equivalent to multiple solar flares. The attack was so intense that nearby space itself began to tear, creating rifts in the fabric of reality. The bombardment continued for 2 full minutes. When it finally ended, the local star system looked like it had been hit by a cosmic hurricane. Asteroids had been vaporized, space debris had been turned to plasma, and the very fabric of space-time showed visible stress fractures. Through it all, the human ship continued to glow with that peaceful blue light. Impossible, Admiral Korthrex whispered. Sensor readings confirm the human vessel is completely undamaged. Lieutenant Commander Vorth reported, his voice barely audible. The energy from our attack appears to have been absorbed without any visible effect. The human pilot's voice came through the speakers, still sounding perfectly calm. Are you done? Because I'd like to get started with my demonstration now. Your demonstration? Admiral Zixthara asked weakly. Oh, yes. You folks wanted to see what happens when you threaten humans. I think it's time for a practical lesson. The blue glow around the human ship suddenly flared, becoming so bright that the automatic filters on every Imperial viewscreen activated to prevent blindness. When the light faded, the cosmic drifter had transformed again. But this time, the change was different. The ship hadn't just unfolded. It had become something that hurt to look at directly. The vessel now existed in dimensions that the human eye couldn't properly process. It was simultaneously massive and tiny, close and distant, solid and transparent. Looking at it made Admiral Zixthara's brain hurt. What is that thing? Admiral Korthrex demanded. That's the cosmic drifter when she's mildly annoyed, the human replied cheerfully. She doesn't like being shot at. The impossible ship began to move, but not in any way that made sense. It didn't accelerate or turn. Instead, it simply appeared. Next to Admiral Korthrex's flagship, the Imperial Wrath. One moment it was 1,000 kilometers away, the next it was close enough to touch. How did you, Admiral? Korthrex began. His question was cut off as something that could only be described as a gentle nudge lifted his massive dreadnought and pushed it aside. The Imperial Wrath, a ship that massed 30 million tons, was moved through space as easily as a leaf in the wind. The vessel tumbled end over end, its crew unconscious from the impossible G-forces. Sorry about that, the human said. The cosmic drifter gets a bit playful when she's showing off. The impossible ship appeared next to another dreadnought and gave it the same gentle treatment, then another, and another. Within minutes, a dozen of the Empire's most powerful warships were spinning helplessly through space, their crews knocked unconscious by accelerations that should have killed them. Instantly, stop this! Admiral Vexar demanded, her skin showing the pure white of absolute terror. Stop what? I'm barely getting started. Would you like to see what happens when humans get really creative? The human ship suddenly split into 3 identical copies of itself. Then those 3 became 9, then 27. Within seconds, the Imperial fleet found itself surrounded by hundreds of identical human vessels, each one as impossible as the original. Which one is real? Admiral Korath asked desperately. They're all real, the human replied, and their voice now came from every ship simultaneously. Reality is pretty flexible when you understand how it works. Admiral Zixthara watched as her entire understanding of the universe collapsed around her. The human ships moved through space in formations that violated geometry itself. They passed through each other without collision, occupied the same space at the same time, and seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Human pilot, she said weakly. What are you? Just a cargo hauler, the response came from everywhere at once. Though I suppose you could say I'm pretty good at my job. One of the human ships appeared directly in front of the super dreadnought, Galaxy's End, and seemed to examine it with interest. Nice ship, the human commented. A bit overdone, but I like the engineering. Very intimidating. The impossible vessel reached out with something that wasn't quite an arm, and wasn't quite a tractor beam, and gently tapped the massive warship. The Galaxy's End, the most powerful vessel ever built by the Empire, simply stopped working. Every system shut down simultaneously, leaving the ship drifting powerlessly through space. What did you do? Admiral Korthrex demanded from his spinning flagship. Oh, I just asked it nicely to take a little nap. Don't worry, your crew is fine. They're just having a nice rest. Admiral Zixthara realized that she was witnessing something beyond warfare. This wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration of power so absolute that resistance was meaningless. The human wasn't trying to destroy the Imperial fleet. They were simply showing how easily they could if they chose to. Human pilot, she said carefully, what would it take for you to stop this demonstration? Stop? But I'm just getting started. Would you like to see what happens when I really stretch the cosmic drifter's legs? No, Admiral Zixthara said quickly. No, I think we've seen enough. Are you sure? I was going to show you the really fun stuff. Like how we convinced physics to let us build a ship that's bigger on the inside than the outside. We surrender, Admiral Zixthara said quietly. Surrender? To little old me? That seems a bit dramatic. We surrender, she repeated. Louder this time. The hundreds of human ships suddenly merged back into a single vessel, which returned to its original ramshackle appearance. The unconscious crews of the Imperial ships began to wake up, and the galaxy's end slowly came back to life. Well, that was fun, the human said cheerfully. Thanks for the entertainment. Now, if you folks don't mind, I really do need to deliver this coffee before it gets cold. Admiral Zixthara sat in her command chair, staring at the empty space where the human ship had been moments before. The cosmic drifter had vanished in a flash of rainbow-colored light that spelled out, "Thanks for the chat," in 17 different languages. The message had hung in space for 30 seconds before fading away, leaving behind only the memory of impossible technology and casual human friendliness. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Vorth said quietly, we're receiving priority. Communications from Imperial Command, the High Council, and approximately 47 different intelligence agencies. Put Imperial Command through first. Grand Admiral Vexman appeared on the screen, his compound eyes flickering with patterns that indicated extreme agitation. Behind him, Admiral Zixthara could see members of the High Council, various military advisors, and what appeared to be the Empire's top scientists all talking at once. Admiral Zixthara explained to me what just happened. Admiral Zixthara took a deep breath. Sir, the human vessel demonstrated capabilities that defy every law of physics we know. They effortlessly disabled our entire fleet, including the galaxy's end, without causing any permanent damage. Disabled how? They nudged our ships gently and asked the galaxy's end to take a nap. Grand Admiral Vexman's eyes stopped flickering entirely, which in his species indicated complete shock. They asked a warship to take a nap? Yes, sir. And it did. Admiral, are you suffering from combat stress? No, sir. I have over 200 witnesses and complete sensor recordings of the entire incident. Counselor Ithgara pushed forward, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. Admiral, what exactly did this human tell you about their species? They claim to be a cargo hauler delivering coffee and cookies. They said humans have been tinkering with physics and figured out how to make things work that shouldn't work. Coffee. And cookies, the counselor repeated slowly. Yes, ma'am. To a human colony on Kepler 442b? Chief Science Advisor Kelter, a being whose species was known for their logical thinking, stepped into view. Admiral, did the human provide any information about their homeworld or their civilization? They mentioned a few things. They said, humans fought a galactic war about 15 years ago and convinced the other side that bothering humans was a bad idea. They also mentioned building their ship in something called a garage. A garage? According to my translation computers, it's a small building where vehicles are stored and repaired. The Chief Science Advisor's face showed disbelief. They built that vessel in a storage building? That's what they claimed. They said it was nothing fancy and that humans are pretty good at making things work. Grand Admiral Vexman looked around at his advisors. Begin immediate intelligence gathering on this human species. I want to know everything about them. Where they come from, how many of them there are, and what their military capabilities are. Sir, Admiral Zixthara said carefully, based on what I witnessed, I strongly recommend that we classify human space as forbidden territory and issue orders for all Imperial vessels to avoid contact. That seems extreme. Sir, if that was a civilian cargo vessel, I don't want to know what their military ships are capable of. Intelligence Director Vashko, a shadowy figure who rarely appeared at official meetings, stepped forward. Admiral, our long-range scouts have already begun gathering information about human space. The initial reports are disturbing. Explain. We have identified what appears to be the human home system. The third planet shows signs of a highly advanced civilization with a population of approximately 8 billion individuals. 8 billion? Grand Admiral Vexman asked. That's larger than most Imperial worlds. Yes, sir. But that's not the disturbing part. We have detected over 50,000 vessels moving through human space at any given time. Admiral Zixthara felt her blood turn cold. 50,000 ships? Cargo vessels, passenger transports, and what appear to be civilian craft. Based on the energy signatures, each one appears to be individually more powerful than most Imperial. Battle cruisers. Their civilian ships are more powerful than our warships? Significantly more powerful. And sir, we have been unable to locate any human military vessels. What do you mean? There are no ships in human space that register as military craft. No battle fleets, no patrol squadrons, no defense stations. Nothing that appears designed for warfare. Chief Science Advisor Kelter looked puzzled. That's impossible. Every spacefaring civilization has military forces. Unless, Intelligence Director Vashko said slowly, their civilian technology is so advanced that they don't need dedicated military vessels. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Zixthara. Director, what have your scouts learned about human technology? Very little that makes sense. Human ships appear to operate on principles that our scientists cannot understand. They move faster than should be possible, carry more cargo than their size should allow, and seem to ignore basic laws of physics. Have you intercepted any human communications? Yes, and that's perhaps the most disturbing part. Based on the communications we've monitored, humans treat their impossible technology as completely normal. They discuss bending space-time the way we might discuss adjusting engine settings. Counselor Ithgara's tentacles had stopped writhing and now hung motionless, a sign of deep fear in her species. Director, what do humans talk about in these communications? Cargo deliveries, family news, something called sports scores, and complaints about coffee quality. They seem to be a remarkably peaceful species focused on trade and communication. Peaceful? Yes, Counselor. We have detected no military communications, no discussions of conquest or expansion, and no hostile intentions toward other species. They appear to be primarily interested in delivering goods and staying in touch with their families. Grand Admiral Vexman's compound eyes began flickering again. So we're dealing with a species of 8 billion individuals who possess technology beyond our understanding, operate tens of thousands of ships more powerful than our warships, and use all of this capability to deliver coffee and cookies? That appears to be accurate, sir. Admiral Zixthara spoke up. Sir, there's something else. The human pilot mentioned that what we saw was just a cargo ship, and that we really wouldn't want to meet the military folks. They have military forces? The pilot suggested they do, but described them as something we would not want to encounter. Chief Science Advisor Kelter looked around the group. If their civilian vessels can disable our entire fleet with gentle nudges, what are their military ships capable of? No one answered that question. Intelligence Director Vashko cleared his throat. Sir, there's one more thing. We've detected evidence that humans have been monitoring our communications for some time. They've been spying on us? Not spying exactly, more like ... keeping an eye on things. Our analysts believe they've been aware of the Empire for years, but chose not to make contact. Why? Unknown. But based on intercepted communications, it appears they consider us mostly harmless but a bit aggressive. Admiral Zixthara felt a strange mixture of relief and humiliation. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was considered mostly harmless by a species that delivered coffee in ships that could rewrite reality. Grand Admiral Vexman looked around at his advisors. Recommendations? Complete avoidance, Admiral Zixthara said immediately. Issue galaxy-wide orders that any Imperial vessel encountering humans should apologize politely and leave immediately. Agreed, said Intelligence Director Vashko. We should also begin drafting formal diplomatic protocols for future contact. What kind of protocols? The kind that ensure we never, under any circumstances, annoy them. Chief Science Advisor Kelter nodded. I recommend we also begin a complete review of our understanding of physics. If humans can make technology work that shouldn't work, we need to understand how. And if we can't understand it, then we accept that there are things in the universe beyond our comprehension and hope that humans continue to be interested only in delivering coffee. Grand Admiral Lexman made a decision that would reshape imperial policy for generations to come. Effective immediately, human space is classified as absolutely forbidden territory. No imperial vessel will enter human space under any circumstances. If humans are encountered outside their territory, our ships will be polite, respectful, and will offer any assistance requested. And if they offer us coffee, asked Counselor Ithgara. Accept it gratefully, the Grand Admiral replied. The survival of the Empire may depend on not offending the humans. 3 hours later, Admiral Zixthara was alone in her quarters, writing her official report. She paused at her desk, thinking about the friendly human pilot who had casually demonstrated the ability to rewrite the laws of physics. Captain Sarah Chun, cargo hauler, coffee enthusiast, and probably the most powerful individual the Empire had ever encountered. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Admiral Zixthara opened the communication channel and nearly fell out of her chair when she heard a familiar, cheerful voice. "Hey there, Admiral. It's Sarah Chun. I just wanted to let you know I made my delivery on time." The coffee was still hot, and Mom's cookies were a big hit with the colonists. How are you contacting me? Oh, the Cosmic Drifter has pretty good communication systems. I figured I should thank you for being so reasonable back there. A lot of species would have kept shooting even after it was obvious it wasn't working. You're welcome. I also wanted to mention that Earth's diplomatic corps heard about our little meeting. They're pretty interested in opening formal relations with your empire. Admiral Zixthara's heart rate spiked. Diplomatic relations? Sure, humans like meeting new people. We're thinking about setting up some trade routes, maybe exchanging cultural information. You folks seem nice enough once you stop trying to blow things up. Aye. We would be honored to establish diplomatic relations. Great, I'll let them know. Oh, and Admiral? Yes? Thanks for not making things difficult. I really hate it when I have to get creative with the Cosmic Drifter's defensive systems. Last time that happened, I accidentally turned a moon into a giant ball of cheese. The locals were not happy about that. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Zixthara staring at the wall. Somewhere in human space, a cheerful cargo hauler was probably humming while delivering impossible goods in a ship that treated physics like a friendly suggestion. And apparently that same pilot had once turned a moon into cheese by accident. Admiral Zixthara reached for her emergency bottle of Altarian brandy and poured herself a very large drink. She had a feeling that the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place.